A prominent organizer of pro-Hamas protests in Toronto has been charged with a serious terrorism-related offense, according to an official statement released by the Toronto Police Service. Scarlett Grace with Rebel News. The Toronto Police, working jointly with the RCMP's Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, INSET, has charged 33-year-old Ahmad Hassan Hajahmad, who is also widely known as Ahmad Jarrar, with one count of participating in or contributing to the activities of a terrorist group under Section 83.18 of the Criminal Code. Police allege that on May 25th and September 7th, 2024, Hajahmad attended pro-Palestine demonstrations in the Bay Street and Front Street West area of downtown Toronto. There, using amplification devices, he made public statements that advocated for the detestation and harm against members of the Israeli and Jewish communities. On March 7th, 2025, investigators executed a search warrant at a Toronto residence and seized multiple electronic devices. A subsequent joint investigation gathered evidence supporting the allegation that the accused acted for the benefit of and in association with Hamas, a group Canada has long designated as a terrorist entity since 2002. On July 20th, 2026, the Attorney General of Ontario and the Government of Canada provided consent to proceed with the charge. The next day, July 21st, Hajahmad was arrested. He appeared in court that morning at the Ontario Court of Justice and has since been granted bail. Due to a court-imposed publication ban, police have not released any further details at this time. Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew noted that investigations into criminal offenses at demonstrations do not end when the event is over, and that complex cases like this highlight the need to strengthen counterterrorism efforts. The force thanked the RCMP's INSET for its support. This development did not emerge overnight, though. Hajahmad has been a highly visible figure in Toronto's protest scene for years, organizing and leading multiple anti-Israel demonstrations, including events connected to the pro-Hamas encampment at the University of Toronto in 2024. He has been documented leading marches, speaking at encampments, donating Palestinian flags as part of coordinated efforts, and even liaising with police at times to facilitate demonstrations. In one widely circulated video from April 2025, Hajahmad openly stated that he was at a particular event directly on the request of Hamas to organize a Day of Rage in Toronto.
We stand as an answer to a call directly from our resistance in Gaza. They have called us to actually stand up and speak up and have a night of rage for what is happening in Gaza today.
Other footage shows him describing his movement as an extension to the resistance in Palestine, language that directly references Hamas. He has also delivered speeches invoking classic anti-Semitic tropes about Zionist control over politicians and systems.
All these Israeli and Zionist entities fill all these politicians with money in their pockets. And in order for us, the people, to go against that is to actually stand against this lobby. It's for us to unite and actually go financially against it. But we already know who runs the system.
And has urged teaching children that the Zionist entity is the enemy and that there is no such country called Israel.
Teach your children that the resistance is an honor, and teach your children that there is no such country called Israel.
This latest charge comes after almost 3 years of open and sustained support for Hamas since October 7th, 2023. For nearly 3 years, figures like Hajahmad have operated publicly, organizing events, giving speeches, building profiles as protest leaders, and expressing explicit support for a terrorist organization, while authorities largely looked the other way. This appears to be the first time one of these prominent figures in the Toronto protest circuit has faced an actual terrorism-related offense. Previous incidents, such as the January 2025 smoke canister discharge at Union Station that led to mischief charges against Hajahmad and another individual, resulted in far lesser consequences. Yet the pattern of inflammatory rhetoric, disruption, and open alignment with Hamas continued unchecked for years. So, how was someone with this level of public activity, these kinds of statements, and documented support of Hamas able to continue operating openly for so long without earlier intervention? What monitoring, if any, was taking place when individuals claimed to be acting on instructions from a designated terrorist group? Why does it often seem that clear warning signs repeated over nearly 3 years are only acted upon after significant public attention, documentation by citizens and journalists, or after the situation escalates to the point where charges become unavoidable? Designated terrorist groups like Hamas do not operate in isolation. They rely on supporters, organizers, and networks on the ground to advance their cause, maintain visibility, if you will. When individuals with this kind of track record are allowed to function openly for years, it erodes public confidence that authorities are taking these threats with the urgency the law already permits. Canadians have a right to expect that law enforcement will act on credible information about support for terrorist organizations in a timely manner, not years later. We also deserve transparency once charges are laid, including clear details on the allegations and the full timeline of the investigation, even as the publication ban limits what can be said right now. There have been repeated warnings about certain individuals and groups involved in certain protest activity that crosses into support for terrorism or incitement, followed by relatively slow or limited institutional responses until the situation becomes impossible to ignore, even though it long was. After nearly 3 years of this environment, it's certainly notable that this is the first terrorism-related charge against one of these high-profile organizers. The public deserves answers. Why was this allowed to continue for so long? What changes, if any, will now be made in how similar cases are handled going forward? Will there be more? And will authorities finally treat support for designated terrorist groups with the seriousness the law already provides for? If you have a problem with this radical ideology being publicly supported and spewed in our streets, head to deporthamas.com, sign the petition, add your name to our efforts, and please chip in if you can. That is deporthamas.com if you believe that people who come here should not be allowed to openly support designated terrorist groups.